I'm Bonnie. Welcome to Tarot with Bonnie and Peter, where we take the mystery out of the tarot and help you bring this ancient practice into everyday life. In this podcast, we'll talk about life, tarot, and everything in between. So grab your tarot deck, get comfortable, and start your journey to tarot with Bonnie and Peter. Welcome to the Tarot Table with Bonnie and Peter. I'm Bonnie, and today we're talking about the sixes in tarot. So we're going to give you a general overview of what a six means, and then we're going to go into each card through all of the suits of the sixes, give you our interpretation of that card, and then some practical ways that you can embody the energy of the six. So we'll get right into it. If we think about the number six, it comes after the five. So if you listen to our previous episode about the fives are all about, change and challenge and a little bit of disruption. And now we've come into the sixes, and the sixes bring this energy of balance and harmony. They emphasize cooperation within relationships. There's also sometimes themes of love and compassion, even healing within the sixes. So personally, when I look at the sixes, all of the cards, and again, we try not to put these labels on positive and negative cards in the tarot, but all of the sixes are quite lovely messages to receive. They're all very balanced and harmonious, and quite often very welcome in a reading, if I can say that. So that's a little bit of a general I can say that? Okay,
sure,
thanks,
of course.
Peter.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so that's sort of my little general interpretation of the sixes in general, without going into each card specifically. So what would you have to add to that, Peter? Or what is your take on the sixes?
Yeah, it's very similar. The idea of balance and harmony to me also come into play. Harmony, and I think of harmony almost being as an expansion of the idea of balance, because I think balance really does sit in the twos. But when we think about a six is 2, 3 times. So it really is almost an abundance of balance, which really could be a way to express the idea of harmony. I also think sixes, when we're seeing the sixes, we're in flow. We've got this cycle, this pattern that's really working well for us. The concept of, and I've talked about this, the concept of either give and take, the concept of come and go. We have this. It's not quite a duality, but really it is it is a flow. It's an ease of movement that sits inside the six, or an ease of energy that sits inside the six. And I think that that's wonderful, and I'd be grateful for that, because the fives, as you mentioned, can be a card of challenge. And the 7 can also express an opportunity to pause, might be overabundance or overwhelm, or an element of challenge as well. So the 6 is almost bookended. Sixes are almost bookended between, 2 cards that generally can represent a challenge. So, there's gratitude for the harmony that exists inside the sixes. So that's the only thing I would have added, the idea of cycle and flow and pattern, that sits inside that perspective of harmony in all the sixes. Because you're right, they would be welcomed cards to see, for the most part, in a in a reading. So.
I also like to think of the sixes from a numerological perspective. Yes. So when we
I was hoping we'd get that perspective.
Oh, would you? Oh, okay. I never know if I should share it or not. But when you look at the number 6, it almost looks like a pregnant belly. So we think about the 6 as that nurturing energy, often given by mother. Of course, it doesn't have to be a mother per se, but it's that nurturing, kind, compassionate energy that's really embodied in that number 6. So I like to bring a little taste of that to my readings when I see a 6.
No. That's good. And then you're bringing in the numerology. I would then bring in the astrology. And in a previous episode, when I talked about the tarot and astrology, the numbers 6 are always represent the fixed sign of the zodiac. So the four sixes are are correspond to whatever the fixed sign of that element happens to be. So that idea of being, set in your routine or set in a flow or set in a rhythm or set in a pattern really can also be expressed in that idea of fixedness as well. So, that's yeah, I forgot about that one. So thank you for reminding me.
That's what we do. We remind each other
We do.
about things.
We do, right? We do. Right. And flow, the idea of flow and balance and harmony between our two perspectives. So, should we look at the
Exactly.
cards individually?
Sure.
Okay, perfect.
Let's do it.
Okay. So, I'll start with the Six of Wands.
Okay.
And, we've got that idea, and I always think it's interesting, right? If we talk about the idea of balance and flow and cycle and harmony, we have that expression of fire that comes from the wands. And what we've been able to do is we've been able to use that to our benefit and to our advantage to come out of a situation with victory and with success. So, we've done what we need to do with the initiative, with the creative power that is fire. And we have I won't say we've come out on top because I think the six is less competitive than that, but we've come out with the goal or the outcome, at least even in the middle stages of our, at that particular stage of our project or what we're looking at, we've come out with the outcome that we were looking for. So I think the Six of Wands does a great job of blending both that fire energy of the wands and that harmonious energy of the sixes. What about you? Would you add anything to that at all?
Just a little.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, just saying it in a different way, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Uh, I love the Six of
Yeah.
Wands.
It's a
It's
beautiful
really one
card.
of my favorite cards in the tarot. Again, when I see this card for myself, it reminds me to like shine your light and go out there and do your thing,
Yeah.
because what you're doing is you're helping other people in the process. So the Six of Wands for sure is about like victory and success and going out and doing that thing and sort of getting recognition for what it is that you've done, because what you've done is hard. Like
Yeah.
nobody handed it to you. We came off the fives. The fives was a lot of conflict. So whatever you proceeded to with the fives, now you're in the sixes and you're being rewarded for the action that you took for that. And that action is actually going to benefit other people. So people are, you could be getting some recognition for what it is that you've done, people thanking you for something that you've done. So I often see that card as like, if there's something that you're wanting to do, go out and do it, because it's going to benefit other people, not just yourself. And again, it's that wands energy. So it's something that you're really passionate about, something that really lights you up. So I love the Six of Wands. It reminds me of like, just go do it. It's gonna be good and people are gonna be happy. So
Yeah. And you've got the deck as well. And I always forget, the Light Seers Tarot, where
oh,
I
I
think
have
this,
it right here.
yeah, where I think the Six of Wands in that one, exactly right. That's the idea of the performer that's standing there kind of in that light saying, I'm done. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And even I think it's in the Tarot of the Abyss, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, so I apologize for this, but I think there's a ballerina and she's taking a bow and people are like giving her roses and applauding
Yeah.
her. So again, you're like, if we look at that ballerina, it's like she's doing something that she loves
Right.
to do and bringing happiness to those because they get enjoyment watching her
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So although she's doing something that makes her happy, it's also benefiting other people. So I really love the depiction of that card as well for the Six of Wands.
Yeah. 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 I do too. I love that Six of Wands energy because I'm always reminded of the six sort of being an opportunity at whatever process you're at to be able to stop and take the kudos for job well done. But I'm always reminded of that the six of whatever it happens to be is not the end journey either. So
Right.
the ballerina is getting praise for a performance.
Yes.
They're not stopping their career being a ballerina. The
Right.
theatrical performer, same idea. My goodness, all the work that's been done, the one, two, three, four, particularly the five that I had to go through ta-da, here I am. So yeah, they're all, I like them all. But
Mhm.
I'm with you. I really do like that Six of Wands. And then of course it made me think of in some decks, it's just so beautifully depicted.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, it's a wonderful card.
yeah, yeah.
So
Nice.
if you were to use this card, Peter, from like a practical perspective, how would you use it?
Okay. So I'm gonna I might go rogue here.
Okay.
I know in the past we've talked about each individual card, and I'll sort of emphasize what I would do with each card. But
Mm,
I love the idea of the balance and flow of a six. To me, lends itself really well with, I'll say, a tangible expression of the element itself. So I think with any six I was working with, I would look for six things that represented the element. So if you're talking,
mm,
and then I would work with the energy of the element itself. So if we're talking about the Six of Wands, which is what we've just talked about, I would look at something, well, what can represent the element of fire? So I might look for six incense sticks
mm,
where, and I would place them in a pattern to represent that idea of the number six. And then I would think about, well, is there something adventurous or action oriented or entrepreneurial, um, or even fast moving, right? That you talk about the six, that idea of, of getting something done. That's the space of wands. And then well visualizing or well creating an intention statement or even a couple of goals that would bring me to this space, that bring me to that space where I would take my first bow of success, that in that Six of Wands energy, I would then light the incense in a pattern. So, if I had them
mm,
in a sandbox, if I, had them in whatever pattern it happened to be, if it was candles, if it was, six, votive candles or tea lights that again I would arrange in a pattern of some kind. I would visually use six candles and light them. So all my sixes are going to sound the same because of that idea of flow and balance. I think that really does sit nicely in the six. You can kind of represent the six as, sort of two lines of three, three lines of two. You could put them in a circle. You could, put them, in a star shape. Like that there are lots of ways to be able to visually express and tangibly express that idea of flow and balance with the six. So that's what I would do. I would sit inside whatever elemental energy I need in the six. I
mm,
would be looking at something that is goal oriented, so some end point of success, um, in a project, particularly in a project for the Six of Wands, and then would do whatever action I needed to do, light the candle, light the incense, that would bring me that that expression of energy. So, like I said, that's going to sound like a cop out the further we get with cups and uh, with cups and with pentacles and with swords. But I really like the sixes for that. So
mm.
yeah. What about you, Bonnie?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Peter. I love that. Mine is probably a lot more lame. But I think it's important for us to really celebrate our successes and our achievements. And I think quite often we don't do that. We're maybe focused on the things that we haven't done and maybe feeling like, oh, I should have done this thing by now. But if we really take the time to look back and see what we've actually accomplished and what we're really proud of, then that can really help us to shift our vibration and our energy. So I would pull the six of wands and I would make a list of six things that I'm really proud of. And using that as a practice just to, especially maybe in times again when you're looking at things like, oh, what have I done with my life? If you really sat down and thought about it, there's probably a lot of amazing things that you've done. So I think that would be a really great practice.
Mm, yeah. Great. So there you go. Two practical examples to be able to use with the Six of Wands. Um,
Mhm.
Six of Cups next.
Six of
Yeah,
Cups.
that's to you, right?
The Six of Cups. It's okay. So there's like some of those cards that are like, oh, they kind of not stump you, but there's a few different ways that you can read that card. So quite recently, I read, and I can't remember where I read this, so I apologize, but I read somewhere that the Six of Cups like evokes the most kindness. Like it's one of the kindest cards in the tarot. And I love looking at it from that perspective of just kindness. So quite often you'll see somebody handing, it's usually like a little boy or somebody a little bit older handing a cup filled with flowers or whatever it is to someone who's a little bit smaller. So it's this idea of kindness and generosity. But the Six of Cups can also be about remembering things from our past, like our memories, our childhood. And quite often when I see this, I think about sometimes we remember our childhood in different ways. And sometimes we may focus on some of the negative things that happened in our childhood. And then we think like, oh, well, I'm like this because this thing happened to me. But sometimes there are probably really good things that happened in our childhood that maybe we don't focus on. So I think that when I see that card for myself, I try to remember all of the good things from my childhood. And I am where I am today because of all of the things that I've gone through. So sometimes going down memory lane can be a little bit difficult for some people, but sometimes if you can pick out those good things and to know that you're here because of some of those experiences that you had. It also reminds me to have fun, like that youthful energy, right? So it's this like kindness, it's remembering the good times and really bringing that joyful, almost childlike energy into a situation. So, and it could all, I mean, in traditional meanings too, it could be someone from your past is going to be, coming back into your life, or it could be, I thought of this person who I haven't thought about in years, and now all of a sudden they've called me or texted me or whatever. So, it could be something like that. So there's a lot I think that goes on in the Six of Cups. It's not as straightforward, but I don't know. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, I again would, I go to, so if we're looking at around the Six of Cups, all the things that you just said, um, nostalgia is the word that comes to mind because often it's the traditional word that's associated with this card too. So that idea of, thinking about the past. The other thing that I would add, and it would be a visual piece that has sort of turned into an interpretive piece for me with this card, is in the Rider-Waite-Smith. And I've got it here, is the idea of emotional security as well that exists inside the Six of Cups. And sixes are about flow and about harmony. So if we think about harmony that exists or flow and harmony that exists inside the suit of cups, then the idea of being safe and secure in a space of vulnerability, it makes sense. The visual representation for that, though, if anybody's ever noticed, is if you look in the background of the Rider-Waite-Smith, you can actually see that the two people, so that the expression you were talking about, often somebody handing a cup of flowers or a vase of flowers to someone, they're done. This action is being done in a protected and safe space. That the two people in this particular iteration are actually in a guarded castle. So the expression of vulnerability, I feel for you enough that I'm going to offer you something, here, is done in a safe space. So sometimes that Six of Cups can represent a safe emotional space or a space where vulnerability can be expressed without the concern of outside influences. So that's the only other thing that I would add, and that interpretation has kind of come from the visual representation of the Rider-Waite-Smith. And I likely read that somewhere as well. I'm probably not creative enough to have thought of that on my own, but I forget where. And I have worked with the Rider-Waite-Smith enough that I might have looked at it and thought, oh, that's kind of an interesting one too. So that's it. That's the only other thing that I would add to the wealth of
Well,
information you put there already. So.
Well, thank you for that explanation because that just made me think of something. Almost like you could I mean, this could even be a practical way of using the card, which
Oh,
wasn't what I was going to talk about. But almost envisioning like your adult self giving your child
yeah,
self something.
correct.
Like if you could hand yourself something as a
Mhm.
child, what would you give to
Yeah,
them, right? So using the card maybe for a practice like that would be really beneficial.
yeah, and that can exist inside, I guess any kind of space, but and then yeah, the idea of, well, me provide, I'm in a safe space now to be able to provide whatever it is to my younger self. Um, you know, whatever it happens to be, even if it's, even it's permission to be vulnerable about that kind of
Mhm,
experience. So no, it's
mhm,
great. I thinking that because I've got the cards kind of laid out, and I'm with you. I think I really do have a bit of a connection to all the cards, all the sixes. Like they're all cards that would be welcome if I was working with the tarot with either myself or with a client. There's there because there's a complexity to them as well.
mhm,
There is there is a harmony, I guess, that exists in all of them. So
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, so, something that I like a sort of a fun way to use that card, I think would be to do something that you love to do as a child and do that again as an adult. Like if we think
Wow.
about what did you really love to do when you were like 6 or 7 years old or around that
Yeah,
time
yeah.
frame, and redoing that and seeing if you're still like enamored with that activity, because you probably are. A lot they say that I don't know who they are, but it is
They're
said
the
that
proverbial they. They say
the
lots of
proverbial
stuff.
they,
They
whatever,
say lots
yeah,
of
whatever you did as a child, like whatever you loved, role playing or doing whatever as a kid is sort of what you were meant to do later on in life. And quite often we don't think about that. Like, so it's
Hmm.
kind of funny looking back and seeing all the things we loved to do when we were kids and
Yeah.
seeing how that where that sits in our life now as an adult.
That would be really interesting. And then because you said the word love to do, I think, that's right in the realm of cups. So, now you made me think about, that this would be an interesting exercise to go back, to reminisce, be nostalgic about, and the number six, we're talking tangible, think, okay, well, what year was it when I was 6 years old? And what would the top six songs
Mhm,
have been, at that
mhm,
particular time, and go back and listen to the music to make those connections between past and present. And it may have no impact, and it may have a different impact. And then to embrace the energy of the six of cups and be like, okay, well, I can have that experience now in a safe space, in a
mhm,
safe emotional space to do whatever, because for some that might be an expression of sorrow, it might be one of fear, but it might be one of gratitude, it might be happiness, but it might be all of those things, to be able to do some of that past work. You know,
mhm.
I don't know, like for me, that if I was working with the six again, and I would, the only thing I would add to any work that you're doing, and all of that sounds tangible, is I would have six representations of water somewhere. So six bowls, six cups, whatever it happens to be. Um, that
Oh, I just had this vision of like, remember those fish bowls? Do you ever like you go to a fair and
Yep, and
then
you'd have to toss something in.
yeah, and
Oh,
you'd come home with a fish
yeah,
literally in a
yeah,
bowl.
yeah.
I can like picture six of those lined
Oh yeah.
up.
See, and I'm always thinking, because I think I won that at one point, not realizing that what they do is they give you the fish in a bag, and then they give you the bowl to carry on your own. So yeah, and then that's the kind of thing where your caregiver, whoever's at home, mom, dad, or somebody else, is yelling at you because you're like, you just brought a pet into the house. I'm pretty sure I think it was a ping pong ball into
Yes.
a yep into a fish bowl.
And they didn't last very long, those
No,
fish, for some
no,
reason. It's
they certainly
unfortunate.
they did not, right? And another way to learn all about cycles, the cycle of life and that cycle of six. So there you go. Line up six goldfish, toss a ping pong ball in. uh, yeah. But yeah,
Or
I
don't.
mean, or don't, right? Or don't. But those tangible ways to be able to have those kinds of expressions. So I know that our listeners and our watchers are probably very creative and are
Mhm,
going to think about ways that they can manifest the energy of the sixes in their card. So
exactly.
yeah. Was there anything else we wanted to add to the Six of Cups, or
No,
no? All right, we're gonna
I
move
think I
on.
think we covered everything.
I think we
You want
did
to
too.
tackle the Six of Swords?
Sure. The Six of Swords. Look, an interpretive perspective, I love this card because from a
Mm,
visual, this is one of those cards where long journey over water. I think it was Journey Over Water would have been Arthur Waite's original 1909 interpretation. I think. I don't know if I have it verbatim, but I'm pretty close. And I love the idea here of that concept of movement that exists inside the Six of Swords. So if anybody's not familiar with it, I'm going to hold it up for those that are watching. It is an image of somebody on a boat who's being propelled forward, but not by their own power. So this is
mm,
so it can be where I think of the idea of harmony. So I think of what the swords represent. I think of the idea of our thoughts, our head, our ideas, communication, even things like, our rules that sit inside here, our technology that sits inside of here, truth, knowledge, all of those things that sit inside the concept of air. And if we look at them from the perspective of harmony or cycle, this card often represents the fact that we are moving forward in whatever air-like element happens to be, but we're not doing so on our own.
right.
That we're doing so with support. Because if we think of the card, often the people that are inside the boat that are not propelling themselves. Somebody else is moving
Mm,
them forward. So in the Rider-Waite-Smith, there appears to be a woman and child that are sitting in the boat and being propelled forward by someone else at the back of the boat, moving them forward. The other thing that I love about this card is it does a wonderful job of showing us the transition from 5 to 6 visually in the card. So if you
yeah.
look at the card of the Rider-Waite-Smith, you'll actually see two different kinds of water that are in the card. Now, I know that the swords is not an element of water, but the means of transportation in this card is water. And the water that sits on one side of the boat is very challenging. It is rough, choppy water. And the water that sits on the other side of the boat is smooth. And if we look at the direction that the boat it is going from the choppy water
Mm,
towards the smooth water. It is moving from the challenge, the obstacle, the whatever it is that caused us difficulty in the 5, and it is moving us towards a space of greater harmony that exists inside the 6. The 6, I think, is one of those cards. The Six of Swords is one of those cards that isn't necessarily in and of itself harmonious, but it is a movement from what might be a more challenging mental or more challenging air type space towards something that has greater flow, towards something that has greater harmony. Oh, that's kind of what I would look at at the Six of Swords. What
mhm.
about you?
Yeah, Peter. I've said this many times, but I completely agree with you. Um, I often see the Six of Swords sort of as a necessary transition.
Yeah.
So you're coming from maybe like a difficult situation, or again, could be your thoughts, communications, and you are being guided towards like smoother waters, to a place. That's more balanced and
Mhm.
harmonious from where you currently are. So it is a welcome card that comes up in a reading, especially if you are experiencing any type of conflict or
Mhm.
sorrow, that you will be guided and you are moving to better, like a better place.
Yeah.
So it can also really mean like going on a trip overseas, right? So if you want to take the literal interpretation
Yeah.
of that card, uh it could be that you're going somewhere. Maybe you're going on a cruise or you're flying over water, or but it's something necessary that you need to do to sort of get you out of the headspace that you're in. So it's really welcome. It's a welcome message. I also see that as an opportunity that if you are struggling with something, time to take a break and physically remove yourself from where you are, like go away for the weekend or take a spa day, or like actually go somewhere so that you're not still in the position that you're in. So definitely a card of movement and transition, but to happier, more harmonious places. So,
Yeah, yeah. And from a practical perspective, it's a really good, the card itself, I think, is a good reminder that the element that's part of this card doesn't sit by itself. So I always think because the 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 swords, right? This is the six of swords. The swords aren't floating in the air. They're actually tangibly in a boat, which would be,
mhm.
wood, something tangible could represent the idea of earth or pentacles. They're floating on water. So there is the idea as well of emotion and support and compassion. So, one of the reasons I always think that this six, excuse me, the six of swords is is in and of itself the least harmonious is because sometimes we actually need the support of the other elements to get ourselves out of our heads.
So a great way to intentionally use the Six of Swords, I would say, is I would pull the card and then I would make a list of places I want to go to. I think that's kind of a fun way to use this card. So, especially if you are dealing with a situation and you kind of really just need a break and you need to go somewhere, maybe embodying the energy of that card and thinking about where it is that you could go. It doesn't have to be a trip overseas. Literally, it could be to the spa. It could be getting a massage. It could be just leaving your house and going somewhere to give you a break from whatever it is that you're in this moment. So I think that would be a fun way to use the Six of Swords. What do
I,
you think, Peter?
I love
You
that
have something
idea.
lined up, I'm sure, with feathers or something.
Well, feathers is what I was thinking of. I often think of feathers as the representation for air, but
Yeah.
what I had talked about just before we look at the practical examples is the idea that this card really is a representation of not just that air energy or that air
Mm.
quality, that it really does sometimes require energy from other elements or other modalities. So I love the example, of a massage, for example. Like, what a great way to get out of your head, which is the sort of airspace, and get into your body, which is the pentacle space.
Mhm.
So, I think a great practical way would be to use that Six of Swords, but then go and look at, well, if it's to use your example, if it was a massage or if it was a good meal. I wouldn't say I'm a foodie, but I love one of the things that we love about travel. And you said it, about listing travel is Kelly and I love to travel, but we also love the shared experience of a good meal while we're traveling. So the idea of,
Oh,
well,
I love a good meal anytime,
right,
Peter.
anytime, but there's something about experiencing a new place and then experiencing food in it, to kind of get the experience of what is a good meal wherever it is that you happen to be, especially if you're traveling, quite a distance. And then thinking about, trying to manifest that. So looking at, well, what card might represent a good meal? I think right away of the Ten of Pentacles, right? A
Mm.
plentiful table of food and stuff. And, um, you know, the Eight of Pentacles might be another one as well.
The
Um,
Nine of
the
Pentacles, she's
Nine of
an
Pentacles would,
artist.
right, would be another one as well, with, the bird and the abundance. The Empress could be another one as
Yeah.
well. And then would combine those and look to manifest that experience that brings us out of our head of
Mhm.
that Six of Swords and helps move us forward. So, this is where that I think the sixes play so nicely in that realm of tangibility,
Yeah.
is letting the energy of the sixes sort of manifest itself into, into physical things, which is probably hardest to do with with the suit of swords, with the element of air.
Mhm.
Feather smoke was another one as well that, would be,
Mm.
it's the result of fire, but smoke um, is often used to represent the element of air. But even, fanning yourself, even getting air, like moving air, can also be a way to represent that. So that would be, that would be what I look at, what I
Well,
would
you
look
you
at. But
kind of
you know,
you sparked something in me, Peter, that I love how we just talk about these things and then it gives us more ideas.
Ideas.
So when I was saying a practical way to use that card,
Hmm.
writing down maybe somewhere that you want to go, and then you were talking about food. So then I thought like maybe thinking about somewhere you would love to go if that is overseas or somewhere that's not in the country that you're
Hmm.
in, and going to a restaurant
Oh yeah.
that serves that type of food and almost feeling like you're in that atmosphere.
Right.
So that would be kind of fun to do. And I think something that we don't do often.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to do that.
Well, and even you talk about listing, so six things. It could be six restaurants that serve the type of cuisine that are, within like easy traveling distance for wherever you happen to be, that, might manifest the idea of, of heading off to that particular space. If you're
Mhm.
like, oh, I'd love to visit India for, the type of food. And it's like, okay, well, let me list six Indian restaurants that are close by to where I live. Let me go and try those and try and manifest that energy that would bring me then to different regions of India, to
Mhm.
kind of try that cuisine or whatever it happens to be. That'd be great. Oh wow, I've got a new project now.
Me too. My mouth is watering thinking
I
about
don't
all
want
these
to say
places
it.
I
It's
want
like,
to go
uh, I bet you didn't expect that you would be watching or listening to a tarot podcast and then be getting ideas for,
for food,
for food. Exactly. It's nothing if
for
not practical,
restaurant.
right? Hey, listen, if the tarot
Love
is going
that.
to contain all aspects of life, it has to include, you know, where we eat as well. So,
Of course.
all
Of
right.
course.
All right. We've got one more.
We've got one more, which brings us actually, that's a very nice segue into
All
the
right.
Six of Pentacles, right? We're talking about food.
Food. Yeah.
And now we're heading into Pentacles territory, which again is the earth element
Yeah.
and relates to the physical things in our life, our bodies, our homes, our families, the earth, being outside, all of those wonderful things. But what's interesting with the Six of Pentacles is you can either be on either side of the coin, so to
Mm.
speak. And I didn't even plan that. Look at that. Sometimes pentacles are coins.
There
So
you go. Either side of the coin. Look at you.
look at that. So this card really is about giving and receiving. So if this card were to come up for you, or if it's coming up in a reading for a client, really asking, like, which space are you in? Are you in the space that needs
Mhm.
to receive, or are you in the space that you have the ability to give? So that's really the energy of the card. And if you are in a space that you are giving, where where is that giving coming from? So, like in this space of generosity, in this space of kindness and compassion, like you're giving without wanting anything in return. So that's a really important balance in terms of looking at this card. If you're in the space of needing to receive, well, how can you receive graciously?
Mhm.
Because it's that can be a really hard place to be. It's very difficult for people to ask for help. It's really difficult for people to receive help in general. But sometimes we just need to do that. And if people are offering their help, it's quite often because they want to help you. They're on the other side of that Six of Pentacles. So seeing where you are in that space and knowing that it's okay to give. And if I'm giving from this place of compassion and generosity, and that I have the means to do that. um, Sometimes we can't give as much as we want to give, right? Because we just don't have the means, and that's not what this card is about. It's about giving what you can. That could be your time, resources. It could be financial if you're in a position to do that. And then also if you're needing to receive, um, giving yourself permission to be in that space, to know that it's okay to receive help. So that's what I would say about the Six of Pentacles.
Yeah, it really is a card of, and I think of equity when I think of this card. So I think of the idea of, shifting the balance so that whatever is in this card represents people getting or giving, or people, I guess, getting what it is that they need as opposed to what they want. And that shift may come from, someone who has enough that they can help shift that balance. And again, equity and equality are not the same thing. The idea that that balance can shift and help provide support where it's needed. And as you mentioned and mentioned well, is on what side of that equation do you sit. It's recognizing that you may be in a position to give something. I know that pentacles are often about something tangible, but they are also about routine. So where is it in my routine can I carve out some time to be able to provide support? Maybe I can volunteer. Um, maybe I can support a neighbor. I think about the neighborhood I live in, and my neighbors and I are great around supporting each other just for simple yard things. My neighbor has a snow blower. I live in Canada and in a snow belt, and I don't have one. Now, I don't mind shoveling the driveway because I think it's great exercise, but my neighbor will often, in a heavy snowstorm, pop over and snow blow the bottom of my driveway, which, at times is brutal. And in return, what I often do, because I have a much more flexible work schedule, is when it comes to cutting the lawn or mulching leaves, is we have a shared yard, and I just run the lawnmower across both our yards and do that. And we've never laid out that expectation. We've never said, hey, you do this and I'll do this. That's just kind of how the flow, the energy has played itself out. And those are tangible acts. They're part of a routine. And that shift between giving and receiving and not expecting anything in return is really well represented inside of that Six of Pentacles. So I think I talked a little bit about the meaning of the card, but then also looked at how it might practically show itself as well. So
No, what a great example of that is a perfect example of the Six of Pentacles with
well,
that story you
yeah.
just shared. So,
I even think around, like right around Canadian Thanksgiving, the mayor of our small town put a call out to people because, to talk about the idea of imbalance. Our food bank collects about 20,000 pounds or about 8,000 kilos of food a month, yet it sends out about 50,000 pounds. So there is a 30,000 pound shortage, or about 1,000 pounds, or about 400 kilograms of food every day that the food bank is short. So she put a call out to the entire community and said, those who can give, please give. And actually challenged each neighborhood, kind of divided up the town into neighborhoods and said, okay, no give, I think it was bragging rights. And our community ran with this. And it we've got neighborhoods kind of friendly, with friendly competitions against other neighborhoods, and somebody saying, listen, I already got a truckload that's coming, so you're going to lose. Like the idea that people who have can help shift the balance, that also might make it, because asking for help is difficult. So something like using a food bank, for example, would be, and I've been privileged enough, I've never had to use one. But I have certainly supported families through my work, as a school leader, whatnot, and new families where the food bank was an essential service for them just to be able to get food on the table. And it can only imagine, what it would require to have to be able to go sometimes and ask for that level of support. So, when I think of a call like that, that call for action that really sits inside that Six of Pentacles that, the mayor of my town laid out for people, I think, it's a wonderful representation of that harmonious energy, the generosity that exists inside, the Six of Pentacles. So.
mhm. Yeah, what wonderful examples, Peter. Thank you for sharing that.
No, 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 you're welcome. Thank you for listening. So.
It's funny because the practical way that I would use the Six of Pentacles is a little bit similar
Yeah.
to what you were just talking about. So, um, I would intend, and I've done this actually, I did this quite recently. I would pull the Six of Pentacles out and go through clothing items or things in your home that you don't need anymore,
Right.
or you've sort of lost that loving feeling with that object. So pulling the Six of Pentacles to help you embody the energy of knowing that whatever it is that you're letting go of is going to help somebody else, right? So, and that can be really overwhelming for people to do. I don't downplay that at all, because that's really hard for me, just to go through things and let things go. But I think using that card in that context can actually help you know that giving feels really good, and the people who will be receiving that will also feel really good. So taking items from your home that you're not using anymore and donating that to whatever charity is meaningful for you. That's the practical way that I would use that card.
The Six of Pentacles, yeah. And again, right, the idea of home and things and tangible stuff really does sit inside that space of the Six of Pentacles. So yeah, thank you for that. What a great practical example. And I hope what we've done is sort of shared different ways, some almost ritualistic, some absolutely practical of how you can embody the energy of each of the sixes. So
Mhm.
I guess we've gotten to that point now. Have we got to
Gotten to
that
that
point where
point.
we're drawing a
Yeah.
card? All right.
Ready to pull a card? Yes.
All right. I've been falling in love with the Nightfall Tarot of late. So let's.
And I'm using a black and white deck today, Peter.
All right. That's so am I. So there you go. We got two black. What are
Yes.
you using?
I'm using the Phantom Wise
Oh,
Tarot
Phantom
by
Wise.
Aaron
Aaron Morgenstern.
Morgenstern. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love this deck. It's
Yep.
a sweet deck, and it's black and white,
It
which
is. And if fans of literature, the origin of that deck is the book by the same person, by Aaron Morgenstern. I think is it Morgenstern? Morgenstern?
Morgenstern, I
Stern,
think.
yeah, is The Night Circus. So the novel it might be around 2017, 2018, might be a little before, a little after. She wrote the novel and then has since developed a tarot deck centered on the novel itself. So I'm a massive fan of the novel and have that deck too. So for those of you who are literature fans, this is like the world of literature come to life in a tarot deck. So.
Not just a tarot reading you're going to get here,
That's
folks.
right. Exactly. You want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
It doesn't matter. I can go first if you
All right,
want.
there you go. All right, I'll
Okay.
shuffle and all right, I'll draw the card, put it aside.
Oh, we just talked about this card not too long ago, but I guess it came up for a reason.
Oh,
For
there you go.
who people need to hear this message
Yeah.
today, I guess. So this is the
Ah,
Wise Tarot. It's the Eight of
wands.
Wands.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, it's just basically eight wands that are in the air. And the Eight of Wands for me really embodies momentum, action, like take action now. So if there's something that you're wanting to do it because you have all of the energy of these eight wands behind you. So again, when we talk about wands, it's that fiery energy, those things we're passionate about, those things that really light us up and inspire us. It could be anything. It could just be like a passion project, something that you're wanting to do. But this is the card that says go and do it because there's lots of energy behind that right now. And there's a lot of momentum. So even if you can't see anything really happening around what it is that you're wanting to do, momentum is actually happening that you can't see. So a ton of energy behind that. This too, funny that we were talking about trips today. This is my other trip card.
Yeah.
This is the like flying somewhere, going on a trip. So maybe this is in your future if you're listening. We've been talking a lot about going on a trip, and this is the other card that I would definitely think about for that. So if you're thinking about going somewhere, you have the means to do it. I'm giving you the Eight of Wands as permission.
That's
What do you think about the Eight of Wands, Peter?
yeah, all those things. I'm glad you mentioned the idea of flying somewhere of because that's I was thinking, oh, is Bonnie going to go down that path? And I'm glad you did. Swiftness is the only other thing that I
Mm,
think about with this. So it's if you're going to do something though that
yeah.
this is a card that calls you to actually do it in relatively short order also
Yeah.
and to do it quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. I would add nothing. I always think it's a very straightforward card when it comes out. It definitely talks about the idea of momentum, of movement, and of swiftness, particularly in that passion area, that area of creativity, of ingenuity, entrepreneurship, that fire that sits inside the belly. So it's very, very action oriented. No, that's yeah, love that
Thank
card.
you.
It's funny because I had shuffled my deck and kind of flipped over my card. And then, so I know what I drew and then kind of waited. And you talked about giving you the permission, if you were looking to go somewhere and you have the means. I drew the King of Pentacles. So, the idea, if you're going to go on a trip and you have the means, or the King of Pentacles is saying,
Go
of
on a
course,
nice
go
trip.
on a nice trip, right?
Take first
Uh,
class.
exactly. Exactly. Take first class, go to Michelin star restaurants. Really, the idea is to operate, at, at on all four cylinders within your means, because
Within your
again,
means.
right, the King of Pentacles is very much about fully understanding the realm of Pentacles. So the king, I always talk about kings being the energy of outward leadership. King of Pentacles, is the CEO of whatever organization it happens to be, whether it's yourself, whether it's your home, whether it's an actual business. The king understands the idea of leading in this area of life. So King of Pentacles is a great representation for taking the bull by the horns in your financial world, but also in your day-to-day life, in your home life, in your health routine. That the king, the energy that embodies the king, it is one of abundance in this card, but it is also really one of I'll say practical control, of someone who knows what they're doing, who's somebody who is who is is driving the bus, who is leading the charge, who is outwardly leading, who's showing that outward leadership. Yeah, so that's, and then again, right? I told you I'm just in love with this deck. Like, as much as it is a black and white deck, you
Mm.
really do get the sense that this is somebody who has it all, right? This King of Pentacles really does sit in that space of abundance and means. So, all right, you got Eight of Wands to go and travel. King of Wands is, do it in
It's a good
style.
traveling partner, I'm
It
going to
is,
tell
right?
you
Yeah,
that.
totally. Yeah, right? Totally. Totally.
Yeah, I love the King of Pentacles.
Right.
Of course, he's like the richest king in all of the tarot.
That's right.
But I think the nicest thing about the King of Pentacles is that he doesn't brag or
Right.
show off. So he's sort of gotten to where I mean, I'm talking about him as if he's a man and he's a
Right.
king, but
That's
uh, you know, that a place in his life that he's worked really hard and now he's able to enjoy all the things that he's accomplished in his life. So he's quite wealthy. He has a family. He, sees like he's able to enjoy the part of his life now after sort of having worked so hard. And he's not afraid to enjoy life with the resources that he has. He's also quite generous. So
correct.
again, talking about the 6 of Pentacles energy, he shares his wealth with other people, with his family, with people that he loves. So this king is smart and wise and has really created this incredible abundance for himself and his family, but is also quite generous and is not afraid to enjoy sort of the fruits of his labor as well. So it's kind of like he knows how to live his life and enjoy it, but not in a way that's like, kind of show offy or whatever. So,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think in the episode where we talked about the court cards, so previous episode, we talked about, the courts and
Mm.
as fictional characters or real characters. I seem to remember, or it might have been another episode, I talked about the King of Pentacles and put Taylor Swift
Mm.
as, because I think about that idea of being an outward leader, being both abundant and, certainly, showing an element of wealth, but also having that concept of generosity. Yeah, the King of Pentacles would be a great travel partner. You're right.
What?
Especially
The,
if the
the,
King of Pentacles is footing the bill, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I would be very happy to travel with you.
With the King yeah, me too. Me too.
I also think about, I'll just add one more quick
Yeah, yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It's kind of, again, how we see abundance and how we
Mhm.
view gratitude.
Yeah.
So if you're not in this space where, okay, your mortgage is paid off and, you have all this wealth, well, how can you really be grateful for where you
Mhm.
are in life and how far you've come? And through gratitude, then we can create more abundance in our lives. So I do view the pentacles as this sort of like how we manifest and how we view abundance. So I'm just going to slide that in
No, no,
right in.
but I would imagine the King of Pentacles then is very good at understanding where gratitude exists in their life, right? They top level skill set. King has a skill set that is unmatched, right? They are the best. They are the top of they're at the top of their game in whatever realm it is they're ruling, right? They're the king. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
great, great.
So, Peter, where can people find you?
Can always find me at Peter White Tarot. So that's Peter White Tarot on Instagram. That's Peter White Tarot on Facebook. That's peterwhitetarot.com on my website. And if you find yourself there, I'd say, on either Instagram or on my website, I'd encourage you to sign up for my newsletter. It's a great way to just stay in touch with what's going on, whether it's upcoming courses, whether it's upcoming specials or deals on readings or consultations, upcoming webinars, or again, as I have mentioned in a previous episode, it's a great way to get a moon, either new moon or full moon spread directly into your email box every 2 weeks so that you can practice working with the tarot in that capacity. So if that's of interest to you, pop on by, visit my website, visit my Instagram, visit my Facebook, and sign up for my newsletter. So, Bonnie, how about you? Where can people find you?
People can find me at breathewithbonnie.com. So that's my website. You can also find me on Instagram at breathewithbonnie. I also have a newsletter. So if you sign up for Peter's and you want to sign up for mine, you are welcome to do that. I always send out once a month an intention that I create based on a 3-card reading. And then also posting any events or classes that I have coming up. So, and usually some inspiring tips and recipes. So it's kind of, all things to nurture the mind, body, and soul. So,
Well, and it was the inspiration of the consistency of your newsletter that drew me to create mine. So not only is it inspiring in its content, but it's inspiring in its structure as well. So
thank you, Peter. That's lovely to hear. I'm glad it inspired you. I
thank
look
you.
forward to getting
Yeah.
your newsletters.
Yeah,
So
well, thank you. Yeah, sign up for it as well, yeah, and hopefully we'll see you there. And I want to thank everyone else too for taking the time and joining Bonnie and I around the tarot table. We are always grateful for you coming and joining in this space with us. We hope you learned a thing or two, whether it's something about the sixes, whether it's something about how to practically manifest that energy. And if you did, and you do enjoy it, then please, by all means, like, share, subscribe, or comment in the comments below. We would love to hear what you have to say. And on that note, we will see you once again at another time around the tarot table. Bye for now.
bye.